got me crying for him. You got me feeling so sorry for George W. Bush. It's so a shame that we just don't put him back in office and cheer him as the great leader he was.
Well, I think we ought to get him back in office. At least he'd be able to handle this Libya thing a lot better, don't you think, Jeff?
No,
Gaddafi would be off in a spider hole like
everything he's touched. Here's what you leave out.
Yes, sir.
That Dick Cheney sign. I never heard you, and I listen to you regrettably pretty regularly, but I never hear you talk about the Bushes, Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld signing the project for New American Century before they came into office, laying out exactly what they would do when there was another Pearl Harbor and how they would use the bombing of Iraq to settle the Middle East problems, and of course to enhance their oil riches and their Halliburton and Blackwater riches. You never mentioned PNAC. I don't even know if you know about it. You try to skirt the issue where he said he was going to avenge his father. There's so many questions. Jeff,
just come up for air for a second. Let me just ask you a simple question.
Yes.
What is it about George W. Bush's background, about Dick Cheney's background,
about
Donald Rumsfeld's background that makes you feel they ran for office or they held office because they wanted to enrich their friends?
Oh, my God. They're all oil men. They start wars for oil all over the continent and make the middle-class Americans pay for it both ways. Wake up, Larry. You are on the payroll or you are ignorant.
Okay. Now, Jeff, explain to me then why we're having airstrikes in Libya. I assume Obama's not an oil man. What is provoking him to do this?
No, Larry, you can't take one isolated incident and try
Okay, then Obama is, forget that. That's just one isolated incident.
No, forget it.
Well, you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with that because I'm cherry picking. Hold on, Jeff. You don't want to deal with that because you think I'm cherry picking. So let's talk about Afghanistan and Iraq. Obama comes into office. We're still there. Why didn't he just pull the troops out of Afghanistan and pull the troops out of Iraq? Because Obama presumably is not part of this oil cabal. Why are we still there, given we have a new president without the oil ties? Jeff, can you just explain that to me, please?
I guess those Enron checks dried up, Larry. You just got to pull every little dirty lawyer trick out of the bag.
So I'm on the payroll for Enron, Jeff? Jeff, I didn't have a job for 2 years. I could have used those checks.
You were using those checks to go to Washington and try to audition for Roger Ailes. You're not kidding anybody.
Okay, Jeff. Thank you very much. But he listens to me regularly, regrettably. So here's some more of Jesse Ventura. Thanks, Jeff.
Really? Yep.
You believe he knew it was going to happen? I believe they had a good... Well, why did John Ashcroft quit flying commercial planes that summer and switch only to private planes?
Why did John Ashcroft stop flying commercial and switch over to private planes? Okay.
Why did that happen? You don't honestly believe it.
And Piers Morgan is like, what do you want me to say? He did or he didn't? Who knows whether he did or whether he didn't? Oh, yeah? Well, why did Charlie Sheen lose his job at 2.5 Men? What?
People. I don't believe you believe that. You don't honestly think Dick Cheney knew it was going to happen. You can't do.
Do you really believe?
It's not rational.
It's not irrational.
It's not rational.
Excuse me. Do you really believe that evil people can't be in charge of governments?
Richard is in Rancho Santa Margarita. How you doing, Richard?
Hey, Larry. I am so glad you're back on the air. I have missed you the whole time you were gone.
Well, thank you.
Anyways, I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist, and it takes forever for everything that I know about. But let's go with the Pentagon, for example. That wing that was hit was under construction, and most of the important personnel were gone. That hole that was made in the wall was so much smaller than a large jet would make. There were pilots that said that the turn that they made into the Trade Center, to hit that Pentagon was just like almost impossible for anybody who just asked to learn how to fly a plane. Terrorists, They didn't ask how to land. They didn't ask how to take off. They just wanted to know how to direct the plane. Both those buildings collapsed like a perfect demolition. Building number 7 was collapsed after the owner of it said pull it, which is a common term for collapsing a building. That all the Saudis were shipped out of the country during that time, and more than other officials were told not to fly. Norman Mineta was being asked 4 times by an officer, at the time, which was to scramble the jets. Look how fast any kind of violation of our airspace and how fast our jets scramble, and yet none of this was going on once we determined that there was an attack on our country.
Richard, what do you do for a living?
I work for the 3rd largest school district in California. I feed 75,000 kids a day.
So you're in the cafeteria? You're involved in cafeteria services?
Yes, sir. I work. I'm production manager of the central kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever sat on a jury?
No, but they don't like me.
Because?
For some reason, I always get kicked off.
I wonder why, Richard. So, Richard, what would be the motive? Assuming I accepted everything that you said, what would be the motive for Bush, Cheney, and the others to allow 9/11 to happen? Why?
Focusing on Rahm Emanuel's statement, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
So there's crisis there. Personally, I believe that the players in this Cheney, Bush, and all that were more like further on down the line, like the food service workers that work for me. They just kind of do what they're told. I think there is, I believe in a new world order that is trying to come about to take over the world. You were talking about the corn and all that being, hunger is going to be the biggest squeezing point that these people can have to try to take control over the world. It's a new world order. As far as I'm concerned, I'm also a Christian, so I believe that this is the setup.
Okay, Richard, but who's in charge of this? Who is the one who decided to allow 9/11 to happen? Was it George W. Bush? Is he working for somebody else? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I don't think they know that they're doing what they're doing as far as consciously.
Okay, so who's in charge? Who's the guy? Who's the group? Who's the person?
You could say it's the Illuminati. You could say it's the I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of all these rich families that control the money throughout the world.
The richest guy in the world is a guy named Carlos Slim from Mexico.
Well, y'all want to say Rockefellers, but it's not the Rockefellers. I can't think of their name. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, Richard. Thank you. All right, John Ashcroft. Since that's come up, this is from CBS, February 11, 2009. In response to inquiries from CBS News over why Ashcroft was traveling exclusively by leased jet rather than commercial airlines, the Justice Department cited what it called a threat assessment by the FBI and said Ashcroft had been advised to travel only by private jet for the remainder of his term. FBI spokesman said, quote, there was a threat assessment and there are guidelines. He's acting under those guidelines. Neither the FBI nor the Justice Department, however, would identify what the threat was, when it was detected, or who made it. Now, I don't know whether that helps you. All other Bush cabinet appointees, with the exception of Interior and Energy, with remote sites to oversee, fly commercial airlines. Janet Reno, Ashcroft's predecessor as Attorney General, routinely flew commercial. The Secretaries of State and Defense traditionally travel with extra security on military planes. Justice Department insists that it wasn't Ashcroft who wanted to fly leased aircraft. That idea, they said, came strictly from Ashcroft's FBI security detail, and the FBI had no further comment. Does that help at all? Probably not. 1-800-222-KABC. Maurice in Santa Monica, why wouldn't this government come up with fake WMD if they came up with 9/11? Stan in L.A. says, no way anybody knew this would happen. Ridiculous. And John from Irvine wants to comment on what Obama should have done during the tax Bush-era